Alright, what's up guys? So, my name's Ryan Sano. I was player B for Team Endgame. We were X1 after day 1, and we were 13th place after Swiss. Unfortunately, on day 2, we didn't get as lucky, and we ended up making crucial mistakes in all 3 games, on all 3 rounds, and we ended up not doing very well after the end of Swiss. So I know for player A was Ryan May. He played Salamangreats, and I was player B, so I was also playing Salamangreats, and our last player Alan was playing Striker. And I think overall we did get the right strategy, because most of the top cuts that also played the exact same strategy, and it was honestly the best thing we could have done because we found it on accident. But I definitely think there were some things that I would have changed personally about preparation. But other than that, let's get right into the deck profile. So obviously for standard cards, you play 3 Gazelle, 3 Spinny. No need explaining that. I only played 2 Foxy, which I think was correct, because you don't want to see too much of this card, and it's just a really good out to floodgates in general, because it can also pop face-up speller traps. So onto the one-ofs, 1 Jack Jaguar, 1 Falco, 1 Foul. That's all standard. This makes rank 4s really easy, but yeah, that's it for Salamangreats. On the non-Salamangreat starters, I only played 2 Debug, and so did May, but I think this was the correct choice, because if you have this in your hand, this is the riskiest thing to go for, and you don't ever want this to get ogred without another extender that you don't need to have a requirement for, because if this is ogred, you literally have to pass your turn because you can't do anything. Hand traps. I played 3 Phantasme, 3 Ash, 2 Ogre, 2 Veiler, and 3 Infinite Impermanence. So this was definitely one of the best hand traps that I was playing during the main event. I was the only one making this out of our team, and it was incredible, because it makes the Striker matchup that much easier, because they were just putting all their resources in the grave. They would you would just ogre it. I regret playing these, to be honest, and I wish they were either like some sort of combination between a 3rd one of this and DD Crows. But I decided to play this over it in the main event because I felt like it was really good out to certain floodgates and multi-roll, because Striker is this deck's hardest matchup. Onto the spells. So standard stuff, you play 3 Circle, 2 Sanctuary, and the Fusion of Fire. That's all standard. And then I decided to play 2 Will, and I convinced May to play 2 Will as well, because this card is insane. You always want to see this just in case you get ogred, which quite a lot of high-level players were main decking the ogres, and I think this was definitely the correct choice because of how strong it was the entire event. For the trappy spells, if you want to call it like that, is 3 Call by Grave, stopping hand traps and an interruption. Only 2 copies of enemy controller. Blade, you were right on this. It was really, really good. But I think at 3 it was a bit too much, and so I decided to cut 1 and play 2 copies of Forbidden Chalice. Now, in theory, this card was amazing because you could use it offensively to attack over an opponent's monster for game with Violet Chimera, and also you can use it defensively, which most decks can't use both of it, but you use it defensively as another way of negation, as well as just protecting your plays from going off if they sanctum you, or if they have like a dweller. But yeah, and then the last 2 traps, 1 Roar, 1 Rage. No need to say anything about that. Onto the extra. I played 1 Violet Chimera. That's standard. You kind of have to play that. 1 Mirage Stalio. Yeah, I was played against a player that was playing 2 of this in the main event, and his reasoning behind it was in case you run out of gas in certain grinding matchups. I understand it, but I personally didn't like it. But he did end up beating me though. But 1 was perfect. You never need a second one because these 2 are just recyclable. 1 Dweller. Only made it once during the entire event, and it was against the Infernoid player that I played in round 8. It did end up, I ended up losing that game because of a procedural error by both of us, but it ended up saving me that, making me play a lot further than I normally would have. But I honestly wish I was playing a Tornado Dragon alongside this, because I didn't play against that many strikers, but I played against a ton of mirror matches, and the Tornado would have come up in a couple of situations where I could have pushed for game. Then I played 3 Balinks, that's standard, nothing to say about that. 3 Sunlight Wolf, you kind of have to play that, that's mandatory. 2 Heat Leo, OTK, also just mandatory. Then I think this should be always standard. The Hida, it's amazing during the mirror match because you can take their Gazelle. It's pretty okay against Ice Striker too because you can take Kagari. And yeah, then Phoenix, that's just mandatory for adding Floodgates and back row, and it's fire, so that's really good too. And then I decided to play the Update Jammer Warlord combo. In hindsight, I would have I think I may have cut the Update Jammer for the Tornado Dragon, but I felt like this combo was so strong, and personally I was expecting a lot of Danger Thunder, which I was right, but I never played against any of them, except for round 3 or 4. But yeah, most of the tops were the Danger Thunder, so I would have been prepared if we had made it that far. Onto the side. For the side, I decided to play 2 copies of Joel. I was really that afraid of Danger Thunder to where I felt like I needed to play it, and in theory it was also really good against decks that just added a lot in general, so I guess you could play it against Striker, but it was never optimal. But I felt like this was correct, because in the Danger Thunder the Danger Thunder matchup, you just take out your Veilers or Ogres, whichever one you don't think is necessary, and you just play this instead, which I think was definitely correct. Then 2 Gamma-Seal. I'm glad this was originally DD Crow, and I'm really happy that I played this over DD Crow because it made the Striker matchup way easier. It made the mirror match a lot easier for OTKing, and it just made all of the difficult matchups in general really easy because you can kaiju them, set up a board, bounce this back, kaiju them again, and then either OTK or just control the game state to where you're going to end up winning. But in theory, if you're playing DD Crow, Gamma-Seal will work out just as well and maybe even better. But yeah, I think I should have made DD Crows for this event. The last of the monsters is triple Pankratops. That's standard, nothing to explain about that. The rest of the spell, more on the side, I played 1 Fusion Fire, 1 Super Poly. The second Super Fusion Fire. It was underwhelming for me, but I know Brian may really like this. He convinced me to play it. Originally, it was the 3rd Droll and 1 other card, and Imperial Order, but this was just really strong in general, and I kind of wish that this was the Imperial Order, but it was really good in theory, and it did come up once or twice for me. I don't think it ever came up for me, but it was still really, really good. Last 3 spells, 3 Twin Twisters, back row, mirror match, Danger Orchest. It's not much to explain there. And the last 3 anti-spell. So this was insane the entire weekend. It was just incredible because it makes the Sky Striker matchup an auto win because you just pop all four or five of what they said with Twin Twisters and Rage. It makes the mirror match in some cases incredibly easy, and as well as it just wins you it was just incredible. So yeah, that's the list. I got a couple shoutouts to say. So shoutouts to my boy BladeYGO for letting me get this deck profile. Shoutouts to my my parents for letting me come. My dad's actually the one behind the camera. Shoutouts to my teammates Ryan and Alan. They were it was really fun coming out here with them. And shoutouts to Team EndGame. The rest of us couldn't make it out, but I'm glad that we came out and we did as well as we did. Wish we could have gone a little further. And yeah, that should be it.
Alright, what's up? I'm Ryan. I'm part of the team that got made day 2 at YCS Atlanta and made 4th place in the 3v3 side event on the 2nd day. I was playing Salamangreat, as was my teammate Ryan, and this is my list. So pretty standard for hand traps. We've got 3 Ash Blossom because you have to play it in Salad. You just recycle it back. This is a fire effect monster. On top of that, I decided to play 3 Veiler over 3 Imperm because I felt like this was just the better card right now. Imperm doesn't allow you to do as much as I would like. If I was playing Imperms, I would be playing the Artifacts Sanctum build with Trap Trick and everything. The card you kind of have to play, even though it's really expensive, Phantasme. This card's insane. I was able to resolve 3 of them in the same field, which was pretty crazy. Ended up losing that game though, because Phantasme into 2 more Phantasmes is not that great, turns out. But overall, this card was actually insane. Like, it just lets you push for damage and win games out of nowhere, because that extra 2400 is pretty good. And since I played only Striker, like, the negate targeting effect was really clutch sometimes. Outside of hand traps, we have the Salamangreat lineup. So I played 3 Foxy, because he's your out to floodgates, since I wasn't playing Imperms in the main, or in the side at all. So he lets you out floodgates, like Summon Limit was especially nasty. Coming up across that was basically game, unless I had a way to get to this. Overall, I liked the ratio, wouldn't play less than that. 3 Spiny, or Spinny, however you want to say it. I call him Spiny because he has a bunch of spines on his back. This card is pretty good. I feel like he's one of your play starters, which is why I played 3. I know a lot of people are playing 2, but I feel like you want to see him even though he's not that great by himself. You kind of want to see him in combination with the best card, your play starter, Gazelle. Being able to use all 3 of her effects in one turn is kind of insane. Being able to like normal summon her, send a Falco, bounce the Gazelle back, link into 1, trigger Gazelle effect from hand. That play usually ends up with you winning the game just because it's pretty insane being able to use both effects. Not much to say, you gotta play 3. Outside of that, we had a couple of 1-of Salamangreat monsters. So you have the 1-of Falco. Falco was really good at grinding, basically. You send it to grave, you set back a spell trap, or if it's in grave already, you bounce a monster on the field back to hand. Important side note, can't be an extra deck monster. It has to be a main deck monster. If you bounce a extra deck monster, it won't special. That came up in one of my matches. Jack Jaguar, though, is like your main recursion, and honestly, I wanted to play 2 of this for the event because it was just that good. Striker players know to target this with Shark Cannon now, and if you lose this, you lose your grind game, which basically means you lose versus Striker. Because this lets you get multiple procs of Sunlight Wolf, and that's what keeps you in the game versus Striker. The third 1-of that I had was Foul. I actually really wanted to play more of him. I was thinking about playing 2 or 3, play tested with it a couple times. This card is actually insane because it lets you chain block with your Gazelle, allowing you to prevent it from getting Ash, or a whole bunch of other things. It also lets you go into the Abyss Dweller play more reliably, which is really good versus Salamangreat matchup. So even though I didn't come up against that matchup very often, I felt like this was really good, and I've probably played it at 2 or 3 in the future. Outside of that, I only played 1 Lady Debug because I felt like she was a liability in this format. If you play versus Striker or any deck that's playing Ogre, if your only play is normal Debug and hope that she doesn't get taken, destroyed, or removed from your field in any way, I feel like that's a bad way to play this deck. If you normal Debug and activate effect and they're like chain Widow Anchor and take, your turn ends as a Salamangreat player, unless you're playing the back row build and you just set a bunch of back row. So I played 1 so that I could have more normal summons in the deck, like more quality normal summons, but probably wouldn't play more. I think Buffalo is probably better if you're gonna play something like that. And then the last monster in the deck, it's Recluse. It's the spicy tech I thought I was alone in having before the event, but it turns out a bunch of people were playing 3 of it. I wanted to play 2, but eventually decided to cut the second one for some copies of Will of the Salamangreat, because the idea is that it's an extender, it lets you pop floodgates, but mainly it was an extender. And I figured Will is actually probably the better extender because it lets you set up for grind games much easier. Whereas like Recluse is like a one-time thing. Like you can recycle it back with Sunlight Wolf, but like probably don't want to end up doing that. Like seeing Will is pretty good, but I actually didn't see it. I didn't see Will very often in my games. When I did, it was a blowout card, so it was super strong. So I might consider playing 3 of it, but probably not because it's so hard once per turn. Recluse though, I would definitely play more of in the future. This card was insane every time I saw it. On to spells, we have the mandatory, you have the searcher, you have to play this card. Its second effect actually came up once to make my Sunlight Wolf immune to a Veiler, which was kind of funny. It ended up winning me the game because I was able to get back Fusion of Fire. But yeah, this card's pretty nutty, gotta play 3. In tandem with that, 3 Called by the Grave, make sure your plays go through. You need this. Not much else to say. And then the 1-ofs. You have your Fusion of Fire for OTKs, Field Spell to allow you to relink, Roar because it's a searchable judgment. I mean, like, why not? And Rage. I ended up searching Roar more often than not because I was playing a ton of Strikers, and Roar is better in the grind game than Rage. Like, Rage lets you blow out your opponent more often, but Roar lets you grind with Striker, which this deck really needs. I've seen a lot of lists playing 2 Roar, and I would actually consider doing that in the future, because you really want to hard draw it rather than search it and then set it, because the surprise factor is usually something that's key for winning matches versus Striker. Then for the last cards for the main deck is the Spice enemy controller. Got this shoutouts to BladeYGO. He's the guy who originally started playing this card in the deck. It was insane every time I saw it, straight up. During testing, I decided I only wanted to play 2 because when you saw 2 of it in the same hand, it was kind of bricky. But during the event, I was just like, damn, why didn't I play 3? Because this card was actually insane every time I saw it. It just lets you play through it lets you play through boards. It lets you have an extra interruption going first. In the mirror, stealing their monster is pretty crazy. Also, using Econ to force out Ray's effect, and then Called by the Graving the Ray. After that is Chainlink 3. It's pretty insane play. Like, it usually wins you the game versus Striker. So I really like this card. Would consider playing 3 in another event. And then my personal spice, I thought that this event was going to have a lot of artifact Salamangreat mirrors, and I was building this deck primarily to play against Salamangreat, so I actually ended up playing 3 Forbidden Chalice. The reasoning why was because this card is basically your turn off for Scythe. It lets you set up OTKs much easier using Fusion of Fire because it causes the enemy's monster to have that extra 400 light attack, which procs Violet Chimera's effect. This card was actually really good every time I saw it. I didn't see it that often, but when I did, I really liked it. It's just I probably would not have mained this if I knew I was going to play 90% of my matches against Striker. When I saw this versus the one Salamangreat player I played against, it was amazing. It won me the game. But like after that, it was an okay card, and I basically sided it out every game against Striker. So probably a side deck card for the future. I was just maining it because I thought I was going to play a lot of Salamangreats. On to the extra deck. We got pretty standard extra deck here. We have the triple Balinks, which is pretty standard. We've got the triple Sunlight Wolf, which is the heart and soul of your deck, and the double Heat Leo. I played one rare, one ultra, just to know when they have the reincarnated effect, which came up often where like you would leave it on field and live to the next turn somehow, and your opponent wouldn't out it, and you just wanted to remember that it had that second effect. And then we have the Fusion. This guy literally lets you win games. I feel like versus the Salamangreat Mirror, you just go second and set up this guy and use it to win you the game on turn 2. It's just, his effect is absolutely insane. And there's nothing better than in the draw phase, your opponent flips anti-spell and you're like, chain super poly for game. And they're like, oh shit, I lost. It's literally the best feeling. So this card was mandatory one of. Stalio, also mandatory. I've seen a lot of people debating 1 or 2. I think 1 is better if you're managing your resources correctly. You shouldn't ever need to shuffle it back, but when you do, the option is there. You can shuffle it back with Jack. But its effect to bounce comes up a lot, letting you trigger the opponent's Ray and then kill them that turn. You know, it just lets you play through a lot of things that you wouldn't otherwise. This card's really good. And then we got the one-ofs. We got Phoenix. I didn't make this card ever. I wish I hadn't played this. This was supposed to be Transcode Talker. And the idea is you make Transcode Talker with Update Jammer underneath a Sunlight Wolf, and you use its effect underneath the Sunlight Wolf. Since they're co-linked, the transcode can't be targeted by Sky Striker spells or anything in general, and guarantees that you get out the Update Jammer, and this is like game on an open board, game over a Sky Striker monster usually, sometimes too. So I really wanted to play Transcode. I got talked out of it. I was told, you know, Phoenix is necessary, but it ended up never coming up, so I wish I played Transcode. Other than that, you have the Update Jammer. He's there to give 2 attacks to a monster, which is pretty clutch sometimes. You just have to make sure that you don't use his effect the turn that you use Stalio's effect, because he locks you into fire monsters for the rest of the turn. Effects of fire monsters, you can still summon him, you just can't use his effect. It's also an activated effect engraved, so you have to declare that it's activating and resolving. But yeah, this guy let me win only 1 game. Let me make a Heat Leo have, or not a Heat Leo, a Borosword have, or Borload have 2 attacks, which is pretty clutch. Speaking of Borload, this was here for Thunder Dragons. I didn't play any, but I used it to steal a Sky Striker monster, which is pretty good anyway. 2 attacks with this guy's pretty clutch. Borload's just really good. Thunder Dragons, out Striker. You usually don't make him in the mirror though. The last 2 cards for the extra deck, we had Abyss Dweller, which was my rank 4 of choice. I was thinking about Tornado Dragon before the event, but I figured this card's just more of a blowout against more decks. This wins versus the mirror, and it is very helpful versus Thunder Dragon. And the last card, the best card in this extra deck, is Hida. This card is actually insane. If you don't have enough play starters, getting to this card, stealing an extra monster from your opponent's graveyard, and then comboing off from there just lets you do some crazy stuff. You can summon their gazelle to your field, trigger the gazelle's effect, and send like your own copy of Spiny, and then overlay with it, and just keep it on your field for like forever. Heat is just actually insane. I really like this card all day. And that's the extra deck. Onto the side deck. I kind of had a pretty weird side deck. Mostly it was side for going second. So I decided to side 2 ogres because I felt like this was really good in the mirror. It also hits the multi-roll out of striker, which is pretty important because that's kind of a blowout sometimes. So I really like this card. Didn't see it very often, but it was clutch when I did. The card that I wish I played 3 of was Gamma Seal. This card's insane. Before the event, me and my teammates were having a huge debate over whether we should play DD Crow, until we realized that Gamma Seal does the exact same thing Crow does, because the idea of Crow is you hit the Orcus monster out of the graveyard, or you hit the Spiny out of the graveyard, whatever it is, you remove a play extender from their graveyard, and they can't combo off, so they end with a broken board. But you could just play Gamma Seal and break their board anyway, and then bounce this back to hand using Stalio's effect and Kaiju again on their turn, which is actually insane. Doing that won me so many games. It's also like the hugest blowout versus Striker, and I wish I played 3 because I played so many goddamn Striker, and this card just like every time I saw it, and it just won. So loved it. The 3 of mandatory for this format, Pankratops. Play it. It's good, I promise. Super Poly and Fusion of Fire. I played this for the mirror. Super Poly is just insane. I played against a guy where we were coming up on time. They flipped anti-spell in the draw phase, and I was just like, Shane Super Poly, and that was game. And he couldn't do anything after that. He had the trap. I just chose not to use effect, but I just wiped his board and went to battle phase, and that was game. Time rules are stupid, but this card's stupider. Fusion of Fire I just played to get that extra consistency. You want to see it in the mirror. It's amazing. Hard drawing it or sending it off Gazelle. Very, very strong. The card that I played, because I knew I was going to play some Striker, I didn't realize I was going to play that many, was Anti-Spell. Anti-Spell was actually insane this event. Whenever I saw it versus Striker, it was an auto win, because unless they had Twin Twisters, and I mean like 2 copies of Twins, then I had game, because usually I was able to set up an Anti-Spell as well as the counter trap, and that's basically game. This was basically the side deck except for the last 2 cards, which I was using as rogue spots. The rest were for meta decks basically. I was playing 2 red reboot in the eventuality that I played any rogue, because it's a YCS, you usually play some rogue. But I didn't play any rogue. I played True Draco round 8, which was kind of insane, and I sided in red reboot and didn't see it. So I'd probably play this in the future. Like, theoretically it's good versus the trap version of Salamangreats as well, but again, I didn't see any Salamangreats. I just saw Striker, and none of the Strikers I was playing against played any of the Floodgates, so basically this was like a dead card in my side all day. So I wish I played something else, like maybe Twin, or an extra Gamma Seal, extra Ogre. So I definitely change this in the future. But yeah, other than that, for shoutouts, love to give a shout out to my team, EndGame, my boy Jesus for playtesting with me, my teammates, Ryan and Alan for coming to fucking Atlanta with me, which was a trip and a half. Super fun time. Atlanta was amazing, but long trip. Shout out to everybody else on Team EndGame. Thanks for being awesome teammates. My boy holding the camera right now, Paul, he's awesome. Has a degree and everything, got his life together. Spend some time holding cameras for us. And then huge shout out to BladeYGO. Thank you for hosting us on your channel. I know we didn't do amazing, but making day 2 at an event like this was a pretty good milestone for us, so appreciate it. And then final shout out to my girlfriend for being awesome. Thanks a lot, guys.
This is Alan, part of the Team EndGame. I'm doing my deck profile of the 4th place deck that we basically got at the 3v3 for day 2. So without further ado, let's just get into it. First off, I played Sky Spectre, so pretty standard. 3 Ray, 3 Ash, 3 Veiler, and then I played also played 3 Impermanents, and those were my monsters and hand traps. Onto the spells, 3 Widow, 3 Engage, super standard. I played 2 Field Spell with 2 Terraforming and 2 Multi-Roll. I only played 2 and 2 just because I want to fit more things in. I know with 3 Multi-Roll it's better versus Salamangreat, but in my experience it's just 3, sometimes it's super cloggy, so I opted for 2. Next I played 3 Twister, just because really good in the mirror, and also just the discard for the spells to get the 3rd spell engrave sometimes is super helpful. And for the other striker spells, played 1 Shark, 1 Jamming, 2 Ego Boosters, Afterburner, Hornet Runs. Played the 2 Ego just because it's good. It's good in the mirror. It's also good versus Thunder Dragons. Just sit on a Shizuku and Ego Booster and usually gets the job done. And then the Rhoda, and then the 2 Goods and Fusion for consistency. And then also played 1 Warning and 2 Strike. These cards were pretty amazing. I think every time I saw these cards, I was in a winning position. You know, really did the job done for that. So that was the main deck. 40 cards.
Extra deck time.
Alright. Extra. Again, super standard. 3 Kagari, 3 Shizuku. I played 2 Hayate and 2 Kana. Played the 2nd Kana over the 3rd Hayate just because sometimes it does come up versus the Thunder Dragon and the Salamangreat matchup. And then in the mirror, like sometimes you might need the 3rd Hayate, but most of the time it should be fine. And then for the non-striker Lake monsters, Phoenix, Unicorn, Gearsu, and then Topologic Bomber, and Sword. The only monsters I made outside the strikers were just Ningirsu and Topologic, but I think you still need to keep the rest in just for utility. And then side deck. 3 Shred Rides for the mirror. Only Infinite Mirror, that's why I didn't main it. I don't feel like it's that great against Salamangreat. It's only Infinite Mirror. And then for combo decks, I played 3 There Can Only Be 1, as well as 3 Summon Limit. So in theory and in practice, I just cited all 6 in. And usually when I go first, and usually when I saw them, I just won that game. The only time I lost with these was when I cleared the entire Salamangreat board and then he had evenly matched. So next, 2 Mind Control for Thunder Dragons in the mirror. Pretty good taking Striker monsters and linking them off themselves, and also taking Colossus, so and getting rid of them. So pretty good. And standard. 2 Pankratops, just generic going 2nd removal. It's really good against Altergeist in the mirror, and it can come up in other matchups. So. And then lastly, 2 Heavy Storm Dusters. At first they were Evenlies, but I thought Evenly was pretty bad this format, so I just moved to Heavy Storm Duster just in case I played, like, you know, random stuff like Altergeist, Tree Draco, and then sometimes I would put these in the mirror if I was like going into time or something, just to like just get more blowouts. So that's the deck.
Would you consider playing evenly?
No, I think evenly's pretty bad this format. So, yeah, overall, pretty happy with my deck choices. The one thing I would want to add if I played again is probably just Call Grave in the main. I just think that card is pretty good right now. It's like another trap card, and like in theory I could play them over Solemn, so I don't have to play life points for something. It's like playing another trap card. But yeah, other than that, pretty happy with my choices. Shoutouts to my teammates, Ryan May, Ryan Sano, shoutouts to Team EndGam, and shoutouts to BladeYGO for letting us put this on this channel. So, yeah. Peace.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to support me further than just watching my YouTube videos, go down into the description and support me on Patreon. It helps out quite immensely. As well, if you guys want to talk to me further than just my YouTube comment section, go down into the description and join my Discord server. Thank you guys so much for watching, and with that, I hope to see you soon.